Now you're looking for trouble condition.
Hello, welcome to another episode of American Werewolves. My name is Jerry.
I am Brandon.
And today, 14 years ago, on this day, not this day that you are listening to it, but the day that we are talking about it, on this day 14 years ago, A Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake, was released.
Yes.
And we had the crazy, quirky idea to go ahead and just rewatch it and talk about it.
No particular reason, it just kind of came up.
Yeah, he literally just like randomly DM'd me and was like, "This came out 14 years ago," and I was like, "All right, let's do it."
Let's do it.
Now, I remember when this movie came out 14 years ago, I was super into it. I loved it. I saw it in theaters, I think like 4 or 5 times.
Really?
Yeah, I saw it a lot. I took like every single one of my friends separately to go see it.
Yes. I think I may have seen it twice in theaters and a few times since Blu-ray and DVD.
Yeah, I saw it those like few times in theaters and then never again. So it's been 14 years since I've seen it.
Really? I'm surprised you never bought it, honestly. You always bought, because you loved this movie when it came out. So I would have thought like this would have been one on your list of purchases.
I was also like 13 and had no money.
There's that does.
Well, how old was I? Simple math.
14 years ago of age
13,
you are now.
I just threw a number out there and it was correct. 13, yes. But yeah, it's fresh in my mind because I saw it 3 hours ago. And let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So 14 years ago to now, what were your thoughts of it back then and how have they changed going into it now?
I've had a really weird and complicated relationship with this movie. When it first came out, I was either 15 or 16, roughly. And I'm a huge Nightmare on Elm Street fan. The original film is still today one of my favorite horror films ever made, even above like Saw. And I got the tattoo right here on my arm. You can't see it. I don't feel like showing it. But yeah, I love that. I love that movie so much. It's one of my favorites. Freddy Krueger is my favorite slasher, hands down. So back in the day in 2010, it was a huge remake surge, particularly in horror movies. We had Texas Chainsaw, we had Friday the 13th, and then we had Nightmare on Elm Street remake, produced by Platinum Dunes, who also did the Friday the 13th remake, a remake that I absolutely love. And when I first saw it, I remember I really enjoyed it, but there was something about it that was off that I couldn't really grasp. And, you know, I watched it again in theater. I still enjoyed it because I just wanted to show some friends and watch a horror movie that night. Still enjoyed it, but then again, something was still off. And, you know, being the fan I am, I bought the Blu-ray and DVD anyway. Watched it again after showing some friends, and that's when my like for it kind of started to deplete because I was noticing some things about it that, you know, compared to the original, I couldn't stop thinking about. Mm-hmm. And I just remember thinking, no, the original is definitely far superior than this. The flaws and problems for this 2010 remake were starting to show. And it kind of started to bother me more and more that it was just a film that was not really interested in doing anything original, but just taking things that worked for not just the first movie, but for other movies. There's a lot of callbacks and Easter eggs to the other films in the franchise that are in this remake. And that's all it seemed like. It was just like a nostalgia fest, a callback fest, whatever you want to call it. And for a long time, this was my least favorite Nightmare on Elm Street film after that viewing. But then, having seen it again just a few hours ago, I will say, I don't know where my mindset was. I felt like maybe I was a little too hard on the film as I started to like it less. But watching it now, I'm like, it's still fine, actually. It's enjoyable. I didn't hate watching it. It is definitely not the worst Nightmare on Elm Street film out there. There's still the things that bothered me about it still do bother me. about it. I wish they went a different direction. There was a lot of cool potential, which we'll get into in a bit, that the film actually introduces, but then it kind of throws it away. And
I think,
but yeah, I think this is still an enjoyable film that just has a lot of flaws and not a particularly great remake.
We'll get into that potential that they introduce and then they throw away, because I think we're thinking of the same thing, because I had a similar thing. We're probably thinking of the same thing. So yeah, when this movie came out, I remember loving it. I had seen it so many times. I likewise, Freddy is my favorite slasher, because he's just so different than the others.
Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah. Is he my favorite horror icon? Of the 80s, I would say. I think if I have to choose one horror icon, I think Pennywise would be my number one.
Yeah.
But Freddy, if we're talking classic slashers, Freddy is definitely my favorite.
Oh yeah.
Going into it now, obviously, my opinion is going to be different. I was 13 when I first saw it.
Right.
Did I enjoy it?
It's funny how movies age.
Did I enjoy it as much as I did then? No. However, I did not hate it as much as I thought I was going to.
Right.
If I had to give it an overall rating, I would probably give it a C minus.
Fair.
I was expecting it to go into a hot piece of garbage.
Right.
And that's not what it was at all. Now, we can get into specifics. I think the first 30 minutes are kind of, I don't want to say useless. They could have been handled better. We don't really get any major plot until about 40 minutes into the film, because the first 30 minutes are just all gotcha dream sequences.
Yes.
And
now also, before you continue, I just have to ask, did you see the original film before you watched this remake those years ago?
Not before the remake. I didn't see I've seen the original, not before the remake.
Gotcha. But yeah, because I'm just curious. I was watching the intro and I was just curious, how this remake would be good as an introductory to this character, to this world, to this franchise overall. Right. So I was just more curious on how you felt on that back then towards also now.
I think if this was the only Nightmare on Elm Street film, I still don't think it would have done very well. We'll get into it.
Yes, but yes, the intro, the 30 minutes, the first 30 minutes you say are a bit messy.
Yeah, it's just a lot of they're asleep and he pops up, he says a one-liner, and then they wake up, and that's kind of just it for the first 30 minutes.
Yeah. It's also a little I don't want to say it's misleading, because I know this was their intention, but for a while you believe Katie Cassidy's character, the actress in the beginning that you see in the diner with Kellen Lutz, you're convinced she's the final girl of this movie, or she's the lead, and you kind of really want her to be the lead. And
the trailer I remember seeing the trailer kind of made it that way too.
Yeah. And then they were like, nope, she gets killed off within the first 30 minutes. She is not our lead. It's Rooney Mara, who I love Rooney Mara. I'm just saying the film was setting it up a certain way.
We don't really see a ton of Rooney Mara until after Katie Cassidy's character is killed off.
And none offense, you don't have enough time to really like Rooney Mara's character by the time you realize this is the one we're following.
Yeah. It's like they started writing Katie Cassidy as the protagonist, and then they killed her off, and they were like, oh wait, and they're like, all right, we need somebody new, so let's throw this girl in.
Rooney Mara's a big name, let's just throw her in.
Yeah. I think I just have notes as I was watching the film. I was just typing some things. Some of them are just dumb things that I was like, what? Can we talk about why there was so much fucking blood on Dean's plate in the diner? Did you notice that?
I did not notice that.
He had 2 bites of a steak left, but the plate is swimming in blood.
Just for the gratuity's sake, I guess. There was like just more blood, needs more blood.
But there was nothing else on the plate. It was like
a really raw. It was a really raw burger. That's all it was.
It was like the rawest fucking steak in the world because it was like he cut an artery, and it just bled on the. There were no mashed potatoes. There was no leftover anything. It was just blood and 2 pieces of steak.
Yeah, that was disgusting.
I was like, what the fuck?
I noticed blood. I didn't realize it was like an enormous amount, I guess. But now I'm going to look back and that's all I'm going to see. Watch.
Because she picks up the plate and it starts like moving around. Like it's Quentin's friend, when he slaps the money on the diner table and he leaves like $15, that was a lot of fucking food on that table.
Yeah. They were really grubbing out. They probably had the munchies that night, and they were just like, we just go to that diner, bro. Just, eat there.
And he left her fucking nothing. Like,
jack shit.
Dude. And then Quentin's like, this should be enough for the rest. And then he hands her just a 10. Has inflation got like
2010 was a struggle, okay?
Was it that different? Because like that was probably like $25 and some change in total. That would get you one meal today. Like,
true that.
3 meals back then, and that's assuming they didn't get any like appetizers or anything.
or anything. Yeah, you're right.
That's not like fucking taking in consideration the tip that Rooney Mara deserves because she's a fucking service worker.
Yeah, on top of that, yeah. That's the real issue that this movie's avoiding, not this psychopath.
That was more of a crime that no, I'm not gonna say that.
Yeah, hold up, I'm going back to that scene and I'm gonna look at that blood-drenched plate. Like, I have to see it. It's like in the very beginning before he wakes up the first time, right?
It's when Nancy's taking the plate from him.
Gotcha. Oh man.
Can we play the scene?
I'm gonna see if Norman can edit it in here somehow, some way, because like I really want to see this play out. Freddy looking vicious. Oh my gosh,
it's a lot.
That is a lot.
There's nothing else on the plate.
I'd also like to think Freddy didn't cut his hand and that's why he's bleeding. I'm pretty sure he just fell asleep cutting a steak. I would like to just think that is my scenario.
There's a lot of fucking people at his funeral.
He was a popular man on Elm Street,
This now getting into like just like things about the movie. And this is like the first 30 minutes. Some of the writing is questionable. I think a lot of Freddy's one-liners, most of them are bad.
Most of them are ripped from the other films. Like a lot of them are from the other films. I've caught like I think maybe 3 or 4.
Because I've seen
Nightmare films.
Because I've seen the original, and I've seen. Which one did we see together?
It wasn't Nightmare 2, was it? With
was that the guy pool party?
Yeah, the pool party where it's the guy. It's like the guy slowly getting possessed by Freddy Krueger over the course of the film.
No.
That's the only pool party one I can think of. By the end, he pops up at the pool party and he traps all those teenagers in there. And he's like, "You're all my children now."
I don't remember a guy being possessed. I remember it was like bad, like really fucking bad.
It's gotta be that one. That's the only one that comes to mind with a pool party. And there's worse ones than that, believe me.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, we'll go back to that. We'll look into it. But yeah, there's how's this for a wet dream? That was a line directly from Nightmare on Elm Street 4, the Dream Master. Yeah.
I'll get into that line specifically and some of his other lines later.
Yeah. And it just like, while those lines are cool in the original, they don't work in this context with this Freddy Krueger,
Right. Yeah, and that's what I'm going to get into. And that also relates to why I don't think this would have worked as an introductory to Freddy Krueger.
No.
And why probably most likely we didn't get that sequel that was teased at the end.
Yeah.
when Chris is in the attic and she's looking for the boxes of pictures, it's right fucking there. Like, it's at the end of the attic. Like, she's swinging her flashlight around, and like it's just they're right there. Like, they're not like
it's like Freddy pushed it over there. He's like, here, hurry.
They're not covered by anything. They're just like, she doesn't even need the flashlight to see them. Like, then she like wakes up screaming in the classroom, and the teacher's like, "You okay?" Like, she didn't just fucking just. I can see Dexter.
No, this is like an every Tuesday or something. Honestly, like, oh, there she goes again, just like screaming her ass off.
You can see Dexter poking his head out, like he comes through your green screen, just like
Dexter. Come here, buddy. I'm bringing this dog with me. He's part of the review now.
Oh, what a good boy. Yeah, it's just a lot of falling asleep and waking up.
Yeah, a lot of like, gotcha. There's just a lot of those moments. It's like, you didn't though.
Yeah. I thought it was weird when what's his name? Quentin's friend.
Jesse?
Yes. When Jesse goes to prison and he gets into the cell and the prisoner like jumps off from the top bunk just to lay down
looking at him just to jump back up on the bed.
He sizes him up and then just like gets into the bottom bunk. Like,
that bothered me since the first time I watched this movie as a kid. I remember laughing like, the hell was that?
Yeah, why? Like, I was
like, you have to ask, like, was there a scene there that just got deleted, or a line like that got deleted?
But he goes like immediately into the bottom. I don't know.
Yeah, I can only think there was like one or two lines thrown from that actor before he laid back down, because it was just an awkward cut.
Yeah. Also, all these kids are like trying to stay awake, and not a single one of them has thought to pick up a monster. Quentin takes a sip of a Red Bull, a fucking sip of a Red Bull.
Just one.
Near the end.
I don't think I remember anyone like even drinking coffee or anything like that.
No, not
maybe at the diner in the beginning.
Yeah, in the beginning he is, but like none of these kids are really trying to stay awake.
Yeah. And they go through some extreme lengths to stay awake. Like, at one point they get speed, they steal adrenaline from the hospital towards the last half of the film.
He takes Zonarol, which I guess they couldn't put Adderall in the film, so they called it Zonarol.
They were like, you don't want to influence the children now.
Yeah, yeah, they're just not trying super hard to stay up. No. But here's the thing, like, that first 30, even like really up to like 40 minutes is slow because it's just super repetitive with the constant just like waking up, going to sleep, Freddy popping up, scaring you, you wake up again, and then they slowly just kill these kids off. The movie doesn't really get interesting until Quentin and Nancy start diving into what is happening. They start trying to figure out what's going on here.
Yeah. And I mean, since we're on it, I guess, I don't know if you want to talk about what they discover. Just yet.
Well, yeah, because my notes are fairly, like, I didn't really have a ton of notes once the movie picked up there. Like, once they started doing research, I didn't have a ton, because it becomes kind of an interesting film from there on. There are some questionable things, but in the original 1984 is when the original came out?
Yeah, let me do that research. I'm pretty sure you're correct. I believe it's 84. 84. This is why we should have more notes, or at least I should have more notes, because...
So, the original...
84, correct.
84, cool. The original Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy was...
This dog wants to leave the room.
This is what I've read.
Go on, Dexter.
Freddy was originally written to be a child killer, which he was in the original. Yeah. He was also originally written to be a child molester in the original. And they scrapped that idea before filming.
Yeah, New Line I think was just a little too worried about that subplot being way too dark for the time.
Yeah. They then made this one and kept that storyline. They kept him being a pedophile.
Yeah.
And
which I will say at first when they do that fake out when you know it more seems like the parents are in the wrong for killing him, that this is a revenge story where Freddy Krueger is just getting revenge on the people that wrongfully murdered him. That's when I felt like there was potential to do something different. And it was actually very interesting to be like, oh, wow, no, this is a new take on Freddy. That makes sense. And you almost kind of feel for him. Like, you don't blame him. But then last minute, they decide, no, he's actually a pedo. He did those awful things that those kids said.
And that's what I wanted to discuss. That's what I thought should have happened and would have made this movie a lot better.
It really would have done a great.
Because when you see that scene, so essentially just like the original, the parents burn him alive, and Freddy takes Quentin into this dream sequence that shows that kind of flashback of them chasing him and burning him inside this building.
Right.
While he is in there, Jackie does such a good job in this scene where you believe him, where he's screaming that like he didn't do anything, where he's trying to like get them to listen to him. He does such a good job in that scene where you're like, fuck, is he innocent? And Quentin goes to his dad later and he's like, you killed an innocent, like we were kids, we didn't know what we were saying. Did you ever find the stuff, like his lair that we said he took us to? And the dad's like, no. And Quentin's like, you killed an innocent man.
Yeah.
That would have been so fucking interesting if Freddy was now back because he was wrongly murdered.
Yeah.
Because he was an innocent man and he didn't do those things. And the parents just killed an innocent guy. And that's why he was back. And it kind of seemed like that was what they did, maybe, and then they were like, you know what, no, let's go and let's make him this horrible creature, because just that scene alone of him, of that flashback, like he just does such a good job in that scene that you believe it, like you believe, hey, this guy is innocent, and it turns out he isn't. And the fact that he isn't innocent and the fact that he does do these things are why the lines like, how about this for a wet dream, just make the movie kind of uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, it's not, this isn't the fun Freddy Krueger that we've known before. You know, the OG Freddy Krueger, he killed kids. He's a monster. He's like A+ movie monster. And, you know, but you still enjoy watching him on screen because he's fun.
Yeah.
You know? Killing kids is despicable, but you know, he's fun. That's all it was. At most they only implied that there was something else going on with him and those kids in those earlier films, but it was never outright said. Yeah, which was a smart thing. Whereas here they go for it, and it's just, I'm not having fun watching this monster. I feel like I should. If at least for a horror slasher, typically you're supposed to have fun with all these elements. This isn't fun.
He made, like, there's a scene where he like licks Nancy's face.
Yeah, it's just, and like he's like messing with his claw on her thigh and stuff like that.
He says to her, what is it? Your lips say no, but your body says yes. He says something like that.
Dude. Oh, no.
It's stuff that, while still would have been creepy if he was innocent, would have been a lot less creepy.
Yeah, just like borderline uncomfortable, dude.
Because knowing that he did do these things, it adds this, like, I don't know. It's just uncomfortable to watch. Like, it's just very, you feel gross watching it. Like, you kind of don't want to watch it.
Yeah. It's not fun anymore.
No. The lines would have been fucking gross if he was
regardless.
Innocent. Yeah. Just because of the way that this Freddy is played. Like, he's not fun like the original. He's very serious, very, like, monotoned.
Yeah.
But the decision that they made with this Freddy, I feel like, is why that sequel never took off. Is why I think that this would not have been a great introduction for Freddy Krueger if this was the first time that the world ever saw him.
Yeah, and it's also the reason why Platinum Dunes hasn't made a horror remake since then.
Yeah.
They haven't touched it. I don't remember the last horror movie they really did. I don't even think Platinum Dunes is a thing anymore now thinking about it.
Now another, like, just a few other things that I have issues with, like, so they all went to this preschool together.
Yeah.
It's clearly like a small town. What does Chris say? When did she meet? What's the first guy's name?
I know the actor's Kellen Lutz.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about
his name because he's only in it for 5
minutes.
But
yeah, they met when they were 5.
Okay, so she says they met when they were 5?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Say it a few times that they all met when they were 5.
Okay, never mind. I thought it was like later, like high school or like middle school or something like that, because I was gonna say, okay, never mind. So then throw that thought away. Just some of the lines, like during that flashback scene where they're getting ready to torch him in that building, and Nancy's mom is like, no, like, let's just call the cops. And this one guy's like, for what? For our kids to tell a courtroom full of people what this man did to them? Yeah, actually, that's exactly how this should play out. Like, you know,
and like, I get it. Like, you know, I'm not a parent, so I get that, but I understand their anger. And I could see where they're coming from. However,
I just thought it was a dumb
you're only asking for a fucking disaster at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I will say this: like, that's, you know, that scene was displayed in a dream transition, and the dream transitions in this film, a lot of them are actually pretty cool.
Yeah, they are.
You know, when he's swimming and then in this pool, and then all of a sudden he comes up into this like disgusting looking area with that where Krueger's living or hiding out. And, you know, there's a lot of cool dream moments too, like you know, towards the last half when Nancy's running around the boiler room, then she ends up in the house, and which, by the way, the Elm Street house here that Nancy lives in just is not as cool, does not stand out as well as in the original. I'm just going to say that. They don't put any emphasis in it. And, you know, there's a cool, I guess, few callbacks and shots there. Like, they look cool, but they just don't compare to the original. Like when she's falling through the ceiling, like the warped pool of blood on the ceiling. Mm-hmm. That's a callback to Johnny Depp's death in the original, but it's just not as cool here. Yeah. I mean, it's cool in general, but like, I know what you're trying to redo, and it's not the best way.
Yeah.
Same thing with Katie Cassidy when she also, you know, is being flung around the ceiling and stuff. Not as cool as the original with those practical effects and her getting dragged with all that blood. Here's just a simple slash down.
I thought the hospital was a kind of extreme. I understand they needed to go to the hospital to get the adrenaline. I thought Nancy's cut on her arm, taking her to the hospital, was a little extreme for that.
Yeah, it made no sense. I remember watching it and I was like, why are you going to the hospital?
Especially,
also, where is anyone else in this pharmacy?
Yeah, she's fucking screaming.
She's losing her shit.
Yeah,
and nobody else is there.
One there. But I thought it was extreme.
Pharmacist is like, I do not get paid enough for this. You know, it's just
this pharmacist is like first this fucking kid now.
Just a bunch of junkies just running around here. Hell no.
They have her like strapped up to like a fucking IV and shit, like in the hospital. Like, it's kind of extreme. And then she's like, we have to sedate your daughter. Like, why? What?
They never give an explanation. There's nothing.
She just has like a few, like 4 cuts, 4 gashes on her arm. Could they need stitches? Probably, but like, I don't know. I just thought the whole scene was a little extreme.
Yeah, it's weird.
What they kill him with at the end, the like how he breaks off the blade off of that like paper cutter.
Yeah.
Have you ever used one of those?
Yeah, I've used those back in school. Not as a weapon, but to cut paper.
They're not that great.
He needed something. He improvised.
Like they're not that good. Over time, the blade wears down and like it starts to cut your paper like super.
Yeah, but no, unless you're fighting Freddy Krueger, it'll slice your neck wide open.
Yes, I mean the neck, sure, I can get that, but they cut off his fucking hand.
Yeah, straight up, like it just went through like butter.
Yeah, just like slice through the bone, no problem. That thing has been in there for what, 15 years now? Like, you're telling me that shit just sliced through that like nothing? Get the fuck out of here.
Butter. I can't believe it's not Freddy.
But
that was a terrible joke. Norman, cut that out. He's not gonna cut it out.
But yeah, I think the movie would have been a lot more interesting if they fixed the beginning and didn't just have it as wake up, gotcha dream sequences.
Yeah.
If Freddy was an innocent man, I thought that would have been, especially with this version of Freddy, with just how he carries himself, with that very serious, like, haunting demeanor.
Yeah.
I think him being innocent and coming back as this angry, very serious guy would make a lot more sense. And I think it would add another element to it if the parents, like, her mom was like, I didn't lie to you, I kept it a secret so you wouldn't have to go through life remembering what this horrible thing that happened to you. I think it would have added another element if the parents kept it a secret selfishly because they know they killed an innocent man. And they didn't keep it a secret because
it's some line to themselves.
Yeah, they kept it a secret because they know that if it gets out, they're all fucked because they killed somebody who didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And I think just a change like that, one, it could have changed so much in the film, like just writing-wise. Like that whole last act would have changed. For the better, too.
Yeah, it really would have. It would have improved this movie in so many ways. But yeah, it just falls short. It falls short from potential. I had no real interest in seeing what else was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised this never went any further, and I'm even less surprised we haven't gotten a Nightmare film since because people are kind of worried. What could happen.
Yeah, I think that if they did make that change, that we would have gotten, we possibly could have gotten that sequel.
Yeah. I heard there was potential if there was a sequel. I know Jack Early Haley actually signed up for more.
Oh.
But it would have actually focused on him getting revenge on the parents, which also would have been an interesting idea,
which would have made sense with the end.
Yeah, and it's something that the Nightmare films don't really do so often, which is go for with Freddy going for the adults rather than the children.
It would have been a very like It Chapter 2 thing to do, which would have been cool.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. But unfortunately, that's not the case. We're not getting another one. There's no word of another film in the works. There's been rumors here and there, but I don't know what they could exactly pull off with a new Nightmare film.
I do hope that we get another one.
Eventually,
with the Friday and the Halloween TV series that we're now going to be getting. I do hope that we can get a remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street that kind of fixes what this one did wrong. Because, as I mentioned, Freddy, I think, is the best slasher. And I would just love to see him on screen again. And it's a shame that we haven't because, this disaster.
Yeah. And, it really is a shame because I really want to see more Freddy stuff. I would like to see another movie. I would even watch a TV series. I know he had that one TV series before all those years ago, but that didn't work out as well as they wanted it to. So there's a chance to even revamp that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a shame. This movie isn't the worst, though. I will say that. People are saying this is the worst horror remake ever made. I'm like, it could have been a lot worse. It's more disappointing than it is bad, because it's competently directed enough. Visuals look cool. Jack Earle Haley is actually really good in the role for what he can do with it. He's really awesome. Yeah. I would have loved to see more of his him do more Freddy stuff, granted with a different backstory.
Yeah.
But other than that, there's it's just not where it could have been.
Yeah, I'll say with all that being said, with the issues that this movie has, I still don't think it's as bad as everybody says it is.
No.
Near the end, is it uncomfortable to watch? Yeah, because near the end, we get that actual interaction with Nancy, and we know that Nancy was his favorite of the kids, and so he makes a lot of remarks towards her that, now knowing what you know about him, makes it very uncomfortable to watch. But the movie isn't as much of a train wreck as everybody tries to claim it is.
Yeah, no.
If I had to grade it, as I said in the beginning, I probably would give this about a C-.
I'm right there with you. C-. It's far from the worst.
I wouldn't disagree to watching it again. Would I go out of my way to watch it again? Probably not. But if someone's like, hey, do you want to check this out? I'd be like, yeah, why not?
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, 14 years later, I didn't hate it as much as I thought I was expecting it to.
No, yeah. Maybe that's just time softening the blow on this film. It has been a while. Horror movies are not the same as they used to be, especially remakes. Now we got requels and stuff like that. I can honestly see a potential, if this film franchise wants to come back, they can probably do some sort of weird requel in some way. They would have to get Robert Englund back somehow, but I don't know how well it would work, since he is getting up there in age and stuff like that. I think he's retired or close to retiring. But yeah, we'll see. You never know. I'm still hoping for Kevin Bacon to take on the role at some point.
Kevin Bacon to take on the role?
There was a lot of talk of people saying they would like him as Freddy Krueger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Who knows? I could definitely see it working. I could see other people taking it over though, like maybe like a Bill Skarsgård or something like that.
I don't know. I don't know about Bill Skarsgård.
No, or like a type, I guess.
Yeah, I guess maybe. I don't know. I feel like we can't just like typecast him because he did Pennywise.
I'm gonna typecast him and everything. I want him to play the Creature of the Black Lagoon. I want him to play Freddy Krueger. I want him to be Jason. All right. He's my Michael Myers.
Yeah, I do hope that we see Freddy soon again.
Yeah, and I think we will. I really do think we will. Watch after we drop this news. Friday remake in the works.
Nightmare on Elm Street, Blumhouse Productions. Blumhouse is just going to own them all.
If this opens potential for him popping up in Dead by Daylight, I am for it. That's it.
No, I wouldn't want that. I would want like an actual film.
Oh no, we'll definitely get that, and then that's my dream. That's my dream killer to pop up in the Dead by Daylight movie, whatever it turns out to be. That one. But yeah, those are pretty much my thoughts on it.
I don't have anything else to add.
Yeah, 14 years after its release, it's still, still not the best, still not the worst thing to watch. I mean, if you're a fan of this film, I think you'll still find some enjoyment in it. I mean, it's better than Freddy's Dead. That movie's just bad, or even Dream Child, honestly. They're not that great. Not that great. This one at least makes a little more sense. It's a little, you can comprehend what's going on. Those other films are kind of a disaster and ridiculous and way too cheesy and campy.
I didn't see those.
Oh, we should do a marathon one day, man. Seriously. that would be fun, honestly.
But yeah, that's about it. That's all I have to say about this one.
Well, yeah, so that's going to do it for this episode. If you guys enjoyed this episode, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know down below what you thought of it. Let us know what else you'd like us to talk about. What do you think of this film? 14 years after the release, do you still hate it? Do you love it? Have you kind of changed your opinion back and forth since the time it's released till now? Let us know down below. Once again, I am Brandon.
I am Jerry.
Stay spooky.